Hello and welcome to the third video of the Health 360 series. This is a quick tour of the Be Well, Live Well digital journal Excel file. In this quick tour, I will show you the key aspects of the workbook without going too much into the details. I will leave the link in the description for the complete demo video in case you want to check that one out. This third template of the Health 360 series is a comprehensive wellness and habit tracker digital journal designed to help you keep track of your everyday wellness and well-being, serving as a tool to build, improve, and maintain healthy habits to achieve a balanced and healthier lifestyle. This is a Microsoft Excel template that allows you to keep track of energy, mood, and stress levels, water intake, exercise, sleep, meditation, and healthy meals per day, as well as up to 30 daily habits. What I like the most about it is that this file implements three unique, spectacular, and fully automated dashboards for you to evaluate and celebrate your performance across all your metrics. Feel free to check the link to my shop to find all the other Health 360 series products as well as the Excel templates and productivity tools I have created. You can also check out my YouTube channel to see other product demos, tutorials, and mini courses that might be of interest to you. Now that we're all set, let's dive straight into the good stuff. There are three main sections that I want to cover for this video, corresponding to each of the three types of worksheets in this template. First, customization, then your journal, and then the three dashboards. As you can see, there are a total of 5 tabs or worksheets in this file: customization, my journal, and then the three dashboards, one for each of the group of metrics implemented: well-being, wellness, and habits. Let's first talk about customization. Here, you will configure and customize your template. You will find 4 sections in this worksheet: one for the labels in your journal, and then one for each of the dashboards: well-being, wellness, and habits. Within each section, you will find several tables containing the labels and their symbols used in the entire worksheet. For example, this one. All you have to do is to change the values on the right of these tables, so under the Your Translation header, or under the symbol or icon. The values on the left and with a slightly dark green color are there for reference, so that whenever you change any label, you know what originally the value was. That way, you will never lose the reference of what you're changing. Next up, let's talk about your digital journal. This worksheet is where you will define and track your well-being, wellness, and habits. The journal has 3 logical sections. First, the dates section, comprised of the start, end, and highlight dates, as well as the headers of your calendar. Then the metrics and parameters section, which appears on the rows on the left-hand side panel below your dates, that is columns B to F, and ranging all the way to row 49. And finally, the daily journal section, which is the matrix resulting from the intersection of the dates or columns and metrics or rows for your journal. First thing you'll do is to define your dates. This can be any time frame up to 53 weeks long or 371 days in total. For example, let's choose January 1st, 2024 to January 5th, 2025. Once your dates are in, the calendar view will be updated automatically and will show month and year, week number, and then the day with the initial and the number. Each column, starting on column I, all the way to column NO, will represent a new day in your journal. For the highlight date field, this represents an optional parameter. Highlight date will automatically highlight the column corresponding to that date in your journal. What happens if I click this link? Not only do I get positioned automatically on September 6th, but also you can see that the entire column has cells whose border has been highlighted. This is completely optional and you don't need to define it. Also, by default, it will show today's date. So you can either leave that formula or change the value to any date within the time frame you have specified. A few notes on your dates. Since the template is designed as a weekly journal, I suggest you use complete 7-day periods. That is a time frame that covers full 7-day weeks or is a multiple of 7. If you decide to use a time frame that is not a multiple of 7, for example, let's say my end date is now December 31st, let's see what happens in the end. Now my journal is still 53 weeks long, but the last week is only 2 days long. Because of this, the calendar will display the incomplete week in gray. While my suggestion is for you to use a full 53-week long period, you can choose any time frame as long as you don't exceed 371 days in total. After your dates, the next thing to do is to define the metrics and parameters. Let's go section by section, starting with Wellbeing. In this section, you will track 3 fixed predefined metrics: energy, mood, and stress levels. Start by setting the numeric range you will use for each metric, specifying mean and max values. You can choose any range from 0 to 100 using whole numbers. Each metric has its own independent set of parameters. Next, define what good, neutral, and bad is by setting thresholds T1 and T2, as in threshold 1 and threshold 2. This will determine how your dashboard interprets and displays your data. For example, if I'm using a range from 1 to 10, and then my thresholds are 4 and 8, this will mean that 1 to 3 is considered bad, 4 to 7 is neutral, and 8 and upwards is good. One caveat here: stress levels have a reverse logic, that is, the lower the stress value, the better. So T1 and T2 will have the inverse interpretation for what good, neutral, and bad represents. Lastly, to track each one daily, you will just simply select the value from the dropdown. Notice that this dropdown is automatically created based on the sequence of numbers specified by the mean and max parameters. Let's now take a look at wellness. For wellness, you will track 5 fixed predefined metrics: water intake, exercise time, meditation time, sleep time, and number of healthy meals you eat in a day. You will simply need to set up a daily goal for each one of these metrics. Notice that each goal is preceded by the greater than or equal to symbol. This means that you will be aiming to reach or even surpass the specified target. For all wellness metrics, you cannot change the greater than or equal to symbol. To record your values in your journal, simply input them in the corresponding row and column. For example, this would mean that I have meditated for 23 minutes on January 3rd. Lastly, let's talk about habits. You can track up to 30 daily habits, each with their own weekly and completion goals. To start, simply write down each one of your habits directly in the space provided under Habits. Let's define a new habit called No TV after 9 p.m. Next, you will use the drop-down to select your weekly goal or the days per week you want to complete that habit. Let's select 5 for this case. To track your habits, you will simply use a check mark each day you have completed a habit. Let's say I completed this 3 times the first week, and then 5 times on the second week. Using the unchecked or not done, so the dash symbol, or leaving the cell blank will have the exact same effect. Notice that for habits as well, the greater than or equal to symbol will precede your weekly goal, meaning that you will be aiming to reach or even surpass the specified target, and you cannot change this symbol. If needed, a habit can be restated for this to remain applicable. For example, instead of smoking no more than 2 days a week, you will translate that to not smoking 5 days a week. For the last section of this video, I want to give you a quick tour of the dashboards implemented. Let's start with the Wellbeing dashboard. There are 3 dashboards in the Wellbeing worksheet. You have energy, mood, and stress. Once we have talked about energy, since it's the first one, you'll see how the others work. First, notice that you have a panel on the left-hand side of the worksheet. This panel shows your start and end dates from your journal, so these 2 values, as well as a report date, which is automatically set to today's date in case your highlight date, also from your journal, is empty. Below you have 2 tables. First, there's a monthly breakdown of your dates, so that is from the start till the end date. And then the second one has the same detail, but at a weekly basis, from week 1 all the way to, in my case, week 53. Next, for each of these metrics, energy, mood, and stress, each one has 3 subsections. First, the overall summaries on these first top rows. You can see that you have a table with the total number of days for each one of the regions, so good, neutral, bad, and then a reminder of what your threshold 2 and threshold 1 values are. Next, you have a weekly average time series graph, displaying the average values from your journal for each of the elapsed weeks. In this case, week 1 to week 36. From my weekly breakdown table on the left-hand side panel, week 36 is the last week that's applicable based on the report date and my start date. Third, you will find an overall distribution of the days that I have tracked on my journal, displaying visually the good in green, neutral in yellow, and bad in red, while also showing the overall average, in this case 5.4, and my overall status, in this case yellow. Now, below this, I have the same view, but now broken down by month. I have the totals for each region, green, yellow, red, for each of the corresponding months. And then I have also one cell for each one of the days and months. These cells will have a colored background reflecting the region in which the energy level fell based on the value you assigned for each day of your journal. For example, if we go to my journal, January 1st had a 10, which is a green, so a green is displayed. The same thing applies for every single other cell. Then below the overall graph, I have a monthly average, both in a graphical and numerical way. Each one of these represents only the average for the month. And then lastly, I have a weekly view, which is very similar to the monthly view. But now you can see I have a weekly breakdown with, again, green, yellow, red totals. But then each one of these colored background cells represents one day of the week, from 1 to 7. Similarly, the weekly average, both graphical and numerical, has the same meaning, but now it's at the week level. Now, if we scroll to the right, here, you will find that the mood dashboard has exactly the same structure. The only difference is that the icons, these ones, and the label will be different. The third and last dashboard, however, the stress level, has a slight difference. As I mentioned, since stress levels have the inverse logic, given that the lower the better, you will see that the threshold values are in reverse order, as well as the arrow on the top left corner, which serves as a visual reminder that lower levels are preferred for this metric. Next, let's talk about the wellness dashboard. First off, this is the only dashboard that differs completely in its structure against the rest of the dashboards. This dashboard also has two logical sections, but the first one is now running across the top rows instead of the first columns. Here I also have a start, end, and report dates with the same logic as in the previous dashboard. Then for this, I have an overview or overall view, followed by a monthly summary or monthly breakdown table. And then lastly, you have a weekly or daily view block, to which we will come back in a bit. Now notice how the second section of the dashboard is implemented horizontally rather than vertically, and that each of the 5 blocks, one for each wellness metric, follows the exact same 4 subsection structure. Let's now use water intake to illustrate this point. First, you will have an overall summary showing the daily average compared to the goal as a percentage, as well as in a donut graph to show goal completion. Next, you have a couple of summary tables. The first one simply represents your daily goal, daily average, and daily gap against your goal in a graphical, numerical, and percentage way. The second one displays a consistency view because it displays the total days in the period, the total days you actually met the goal, and the days that you missed the goal. It also has the same 3 columns as the previous one. Now for the third section, you have a monthly breakdown of that first table, displaying your daily average and completion percentage, assigning a status color for each one of those months. As you can see, this row has the percentage that I was mentioning, and this one has your daily average for each of the months considered. The status legend, which has an icon specific to each one of the metrics, has the following color coding logic. Green means that the metric has reached or exceeded the goal defined. Yellow indicates that the metric fell short of the goal. Whenever you see red, it means that the metric was not recorded, so the month is completely blank. And for the months that are beyond the report date, they are just simply grayed out and the same gray color is applied in the status. In this case, October onwards. You also have a cool graph representing the numerical values of your daily average. Your highest achievement, in this case April, will be highlighted in a darker color. The fourth and last subsection displays a time series graph for each of the metrics. You can use the show by or the third parameter here at the top to switch between day and weekly view. Each one of the graphs also shows your goal in a green dashed line. Lastly, you also have a from date and to date parameters. This will allow you to zoom in or zoom out, and you can focus on specific periods of time. By default, from date is set equal to the start date of your journal, while the to date is equal to the report date. You can always leave them as they are, or use the fields provided to set a specific time frame. For example, let's see March in detail. I'm setting my start date or my from date for the graphs, starting on March 1st, and then ending on March 31st. Now, I want to look at the daily value. And you can see that now I'm looking at March 1st to March 31st. And each one of the data points here is just the value from my journal. You can tell by now that the from date, to date, and show by parameters are applied to every single of the metrics. And as you can also see, the 5 metrics implement the exact same structure. Now that's awesome. Finally, let's review the habits dashboard. As in previous dashboards, there are 2 logical sections. There is the date sections on the left with the start date and report dates fields. Also, the weekly breakdown of your dates will be displayed on this table. Then the actual dashboard metric section is on the right. For habits, you have 5 blocks, each with the same functionalities implemented. You can visualize up to 5 habits at once by using each of the 5 blocks provided. The only thing you need to do is to specify which habit you want to visualize by using this dropdown. The habits you have defined in your journal will show up here in this dynamic dropdown. Now, let's take a closer look at the habit block to see the functionalities implemented. There are a total of 15 automated fields in each block. You have the name of the habit that you have selected, and in case nothing is selected, a label called No Habit Selected will show. Next up, you have your definition metrics. So these are just displaying the summary of how your habit was defined. The weekly goal, for instance, shows the weekly target completion in number of days per week. And the period goal shows the period target completion based on the number of days per week you specified and the elapsed weeks with respect to the start and report dates. Next up, you have an overall performance set of metrics. Here, this will show your results in an aggregate way. First, days completed is the total number of days a habit was marked as completed. Similarly, missing days is the number of completion days that is missing to achieve the period target. Then you have weeks completed, which is the number of weeks where the completion goal was met or surpassed, and then the average completion, which is the total number of days completed divided by the elapsed weeks. Next, the overall completion represents the total number of days a habit was completed against the period target in percentage format. Same goes for the missing percentage, which shows the days missing against the period target as well in percentage format. Then you have an overall graph here, which displays the overall completion and status for that habit. The trophy in the middle changes color to show when the goal has been reached or surpassed. Let's take a look at the last habit here, practice piano. It's green because my overall completion is above 100%. Finally, your longest consecutive streak in days will also be displayed. The last 4 fields are displayed in the weekly section of the dashboard. First, you have the week number for easier reading. Then you have a weekly status, which is shown applying the following color coding set of rules. Green, whenever you have reached or exceeded the habit's weekly goal. Yellow, if the habit completion shows progress but does not meet the goal. Red, when the habit wasn't completed not even once during the week. And then gray means that the report date just doesn't cover the corresponding week, and therefore it is out of scope. Lastly, you also have a visual representation of the weekly achievement via the completion graph, as well as the total number of days the habit was completed. In this example, I marked journaling as completed 4 times during week 1. So I have a total of 4. 4 out of 5 is 80%, and because I didn't reach the goal, my status is yellow. That's it. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment below. You can find a link to the complete demo video in the description in case you want to check it out. You can also subscribe to my channel, where I will be uploading more product demos as well as Excel tutorials and courses to help you create your own tools and templates. You might also want to explore the rest of the Health 360 series product videos available on my channel. And if you're interested in more productivity and planning tools, don't hesitate to check out my store by clicking the link in the description. Until next time, stay productive, stay awesome.